Hi, this is Rose, or Mama Rose, and I just wanted to go over how Mark and I kind of got started on this and try to do it as briefly as possible. You know, I've always kind of been a little overweight. When I married Mark, he had lost a bunch of weight with the Atkins diet, and he was real trim, muscular, been, doing all kinds of racquetball and lifting weights and whatnot. And of course, I started feeding him stuffed, fancy chicken stuffed with nice breading and my breaded broccoli and my homemade gnocchis and all the things that I grew up with that I started feeding my family, and he started gaining weight. So there goes our battle, on and off, up and down, up and down. And the Atkins diet never really worked for me. It always worked for him. So whenever he would be, get to the point where he just did not like himself and his weight, I would help him out and we'd do the Atkins. He'd do the Atkins. The only way I could ever lose weight was if I don't want to say starve myself, because, I would get into these kicks. Like one time I got into a kick where I was eating these Atkins bars that were made with coconut, and I just loved them. And I'd have part of it in the morning and then part of it in the afternoon. And I was really, really, really busy with work. So when I'm real busy, I don't really get that hungry. So it worked really good for me. And then I'd have, a dinner, a normal dinner, whatever that was. And I didn't usually have bread with dinner. So, and I realize now looking back, the reason why I lost weight when I did those kind of mono diets, I'd get on a kick with one kind of food and I would just eat it, and that would be what I would eat, is because I probably was in ketosis and didn't know it, and so my body just started burning the fat. And then of course they stopped making the Atkins bars, that flavor, and so I stopped eating them. I used to order them by the case, and then I started gaining the weight again. So, all that being said, this is, and I won't go through my whole life. I got plantar fasciitis at one point, and in fact, let me show you a picture of me. This is, my son got married right before 9/11, so I think it was 2001, and there I am. And I had to wear these old lady sash shoes to the wedding because my feet hurt so bad, and I gained a lot of weight then as well because I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't stand on my feet for more than 5 minutes, and very frustrating. And then here's one with I have more grandkids than this now, but look at how chunky I was here. I have lots of them. I've been going and through some of the pictures over the years, and boy, I'll tell you, I just, you don't realize how overweight you get until you start looking at some photographs. I was a program director and a counselor at Jenny Craig for a couple of years, and that was really great. I got my weight down there, and just a lot of camaraderie there, a lot of support, and that was a good time for me. I learned how to drink water, which I never liked before. I didn't grow up with water. I grew up with Kool-Aid sweetened with sugar and soda pop, never water or milk for that matter. So back to our weight loss trek now. So here we are, we're in our 50s. This is going back a little over 2 years, 2.5 years ago, and we could not lose weight. I mean, I had read a book called The Science of Skinny about 7 years ago, and I got really excited about it, and I thought, that's the answer. Take away all processed foods. So I was already kind of a health foodie anyway. I used to grind my own wheat and, make my own bread. And I always did everything from scratch when I did anything. I made fruit leathers, and, the kids went to school when they were younger with peanut butter and honey sandwiches and avocado and sprout sandwiches and homemade bread. And when I made pizza, I grated up carrots and zucchini, and though that was and used Monterey Jack, and that was my pizzas, and everybody loved my pizza. At first they look at them like, what are you giving me? Your mom put carrots and zucchini in the pizza? But then I see them, the kids later in life, and they go, oh, will you make a pizza for me again? So, I mean, I always was experimenting with food. I worked for Gibson's Natural Living for several years, and I taught their classes on how to make bread, of course, but tofu lasagna and the pizzas, and we did all kinds of things. And I gave information on how to use, what salts to use. At those days, we were using Redmond's real salt, and that still is a good salt. But just all kinds of stuff I learned, and I was in charge of the books, so I read books so that I could recommend different books for people when they came in and they said, do you know anything about this, or do you know anything about that? So that was a really great time for me, and I learned a lot working at that health food store. So again, continue to go fast forward. I didn't understand about fat burning and glucose burning, and that we found to be the key. So I come up to 2017, 2016, where I don't know how I stumbled across this ketogenic diet, but we had tried doing the no processed foods and all that, and we just were not losing weight. We moved to Arizona in 2013, and I would write to my kids or tell them on the phone how we're walking 3 miles every morning and such. And when they saw us 3 months later, they thought we'd be, down in our weight and whatever. And they told us later that, they were surprised that we still looked the same, although we were doing all this stuff with no processed foods and walking and all that. So again, we were very frustrated, and I think I pretty much threw up my hands and just thought, okay, I'm an old lady now. I'm in my 60s or late 50s, and there's no way I'm going to be, able to lose weight. I'm just, just doomed. Well, like I said, we learned about the ketogenic diet, and I started experimenting with those. And of course, what I did at the beginning was, a lot of cauliflower tortillas, cauliflower pizza, cauliflower everything. And that was good. Actually, I just started dropping the weight off. It melted off, and I probably lost a good 20, 25 pounds in the first 3 or 4 months. I mean, I was just like, it was melting off. So I got rid of all my clothes, and I got a size 6 or 7, depending on where I went. And I was pretty excited to be there. And then we continued. Mark as well. The weight dropped off of him, which was really exciting because it really, frustrates you when you think you're doing everything that you can possibly do to be healthy and trim, and nothing happens. We were feeling good, really good, but we were not losing any weight. So again, learning about the ketogenic way of living. And so what I learned that was revolutionary, I mean, we just couldn't believe it. We knew all about how processed foods were. We listened to Farmageddon and Food Inc. and all the things behind the pharmaceutical companies, how everybody's hooked on different pharmaceuticals, as well as the food companies, which want us to be addicted to sugar and not have fat in our diet, and they're just dictating to us what we eat, and they're giving us foods that are very addictive, that the foods cause us to want more of those foods. And so I got really into probiotics, cultured foods, and that was another one of the things that I got through, and I thought, well, surely this is the answer. And it was in a lot of ways. I mean, I saw a lot of changes in my body. I was feeling better and all that, and I continue to do that. In fact, I call myself keto and cultured, because I think that you should always have cultured foods in your diet, whether it be, a little scoop of sauerkraut, cultured string beans. And if you want any of that information, you just go to my YouTube channel, which hopefully you're on now, and you can get some tips on how to make some of those things: kombucha, kefir cheese, sauerkraut, like I say, cultured vegetables, preserved lemons, the whole routine. But to add those in, and it's okay, you can do that in keto and still be in ketosis. So I did all kinds of work with my gut biome, the bacteria in your gut that helps you process things, helps your hormones, all that stuff. It all works together. I mean, we are so fearfully and wonderfully made. You know, to say that the knee bone is connected to the whatever bone is an understatement. There are so many things involved in our processes every day. It's just really something that we function at all. So what we learned in studying the ketogenic way of eating is that there's two fuel sources the body has. One is sugar and one is fat. So we can use glucose, we can use fat. And fat is stored so that when we aren't able to eat in a survival situation, that once our body depletes all of the glucose stores, which is only about 2,000 calories, it's not a lot that we have in glucose. Once it exhausts those stores, then it's going to go ahead and start getting into the fat. It doesn't go into the muscle, it goes into the fat. There's lots of good stuff in that fat that it can use for energy. In fact, they found in studies, most recently even, a lot of things have gone on recently where they found that, you know, fat is, and they did actually years ago, I should say, but it's been revitalized in our new scientific methods of studying things have been applied, as opposed to years ago when we didn't have all the technology that we have today. So there really is no excuse for what's going on today in the health and the nutrition industries and the food pyramid kind of a thing. But there we go. I don't want to digress. So we found out that when you eat carbohydrates, which are not anything that we need, it is not a required nutrient in any way, carbohydrates are. But if you do eat carbohydrates, a certain amount, your body is just a glucose burner, because when you eat carbohydrates, your body releases insulin. Your pancreas releases insulin, and in the presence of insulin, fat cannot burn. That's it. That's scientific. There's nothing you can do to get around that. So, what the ketogenic way of eating proposes is to limit your carbohydrates depending on what you're going to do. Now, I think the paleo diet allows you like 50 carbohydrates. I haven't really studied that one, but it is a higher amount of carbohydrates, so you're not really in ketosis. Where the ketogenic way of eating, you know, you're lower than that. Some people can eat under 50 and still be in ketosis. I cannot. I'm very insulin resistant. I have to really be under 20 to really be in a fat burning mode for me. And Mark is pretty much the same way. So we eat very little carbohydrates a day. And so when you're burning glucose, it's not as efficient as burning fat. So in order to really burn fat, feed your brain ketones, which they found your brain actually does better on ketones than it does the glucose. It does need glucose. Your body will make glucose. If you don't give it any glucose at all, your body's going to make it, because glucose is one of the things that the body uses for all kinds of things, but not to the extent where we're feeding it processed sugars and things like that, and breads and all that kind of stuff, which turn into sugar right away. I mean, breads, uncomplex or complex carbohydrates will turn into sugar. You know, even the carbohydrates in our vegetables, but those are better obviously than the ones in, you know, pure sugar or pure white bread. So again, going back to that, when you eat carbohydrates and your body is running off of glucose, as soon as your body is used those calories up for whatever energy it needs, maybe you give it 3,500 calories a day and your body only needs 2,000 to function. Well, guess what happens to the rest of that? As soon as your body processes and uses the glucose it needs for that period of time, it will store whatever it doesn't use into fat. And so carbohydrates present, we can put fat on the body, but when insulin is present, we cannot take it out. It will not break down fat when insulin is present. So In the ketogenic way of living, we don't eat the carbohydrates, we limit them very low, and then your body goes into something called ketosis. It's not I forgot what it's called, I can't even say it. Ketoacidosis, it's not that. So don't mix it up with that, which is what people that have sugar diabetes and different other things going on will have happen to them. It's not that. So ketosis is when the body is taking and it is making these ketones, which can feed and energize the body, burning fat. The fat burning process makes the ketones. Ketones feed the brain. I mean, there's all kinds of research now that show that ketones are a better food for the brain than sugars are. So fat is good for the brain. And that's where I think a lot of the dementia and all that is, I mean, I've read studies and watched doctors talk about it, that it's the lack of that in the brain that really causes a lot of the problems to happen. And then all the foods that we're eating. I mean, I could go on and on all day long about what processed foods do. And so all you really got to do, if you're interested in any of this, is check out what sugar does. Check out what grains do. Check out what they do in the body when they go into the body, and all the body has to do to get rid of them and to normalize our system, because the body's job is to keep us into balance, homeostasis, keep all of everything working. And in order to do that, when we give it something bad like sugar, it has to go jump through a lot more hoops to get our blood, the glucose in our blood corrected and everything else. So, you know, it really is to our benefit to think about, you know, what's in it for me? What am I eating? Is this doing good to my body? And think about it, because we only have one body, and everything that we do revolves around how the way we feel, even how we treat people. I mean, I know now that, you know, when I'm the angriest and the most upset and I can't handle any stress, I know now that my adrenal glands, there's something wrong with my adrenal glands, and I need to address that. And then oddly enough, my mood gets better. You know, all kinds of things happen. My thinking is different. So we wonder why there's so much mental illness in the world today. You know, it doesn't surprise me when you learn about all the things that this bad food that we're getting fed is doing to our bodies. It's no wonder. You know, there used to be a term that says you are what you eat, but you know what? There's more to that than you think. So again, back to being fat burners. So that's what we started to do. We started eating good fats, so coconut oil, a lot of coconut oil. Then we got turned on to MTC oils. And of course, if you're eating fatty meats, like, you know, good fatty meats, you're getting it from there. We again follow through with all that we learned about processed foods. And so we don't eat things with nitrates in it. You know, if I get, you know, bacon, I'll get it at Trader Joe's with no nitrates in it. And, you know, where they treat the animals good, and just to have that good fat. Did a lot of coconut oil, a lot of fat bombs, which has coconut oil in it, and raw cacao and different things like that. Again, you can look at fat bombs. I've got a couple on my YouTube channel, but you know, you can look those up. So the big key that we found with the difference between Atkins and what we're doing now is that Atkins was heavy on protein, and it was pretty much lean protein that we went after, because we were sold the bill of goods that fat was bad for you. So we ate a lot of chicken breasts and things like that. Even if we had steaks and things, we would have more of the lean steak cuts, and we would not have the fat. And I never liked fat. I mean, I would avoid that at all costs. I cut the middle of the steak out where there was no fat showing, and that's what I would eat, and I would give the fat to my husband. So I didn't like that at all. Now I love it. Now I eat it, and I'm like, oh, this is so good. I wish the whole thing was fat. But then again, that's because my gut bugs are doing their job. I've got good gut flora, good gut bacteria, as Dr. Gundry calls them. And I think he calls them gut buddies. and they will dictate to my brain what I want to eat. They give more information to my brain than my brain gives to them. And so they'll tell my brain that they want those things because that's the nourishment that my body needs. Once you get your body straight, once you bring your body back into balance, it will heal itself. So anytime I hear about, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not telling anybody, giving anybody medical advice, I don't even play a doctor on YouTube, or TV. But actually, we can dictate to our bodies how healthy they are by what we eat. I mean, if you drink too much one night, you're going to have a hangover the next day, and you're probably going to feel lousy for a few days. If you binge and eat, Thanksgiving or Christmas or one of those days when we give ourselves the license to just eat anything and everything and as much as we want, do we feel good afterward? Do we feel good for the next few days? No, we don't. We feel pretty lousy. Most of us do. When you eat too much sugar, you get all hyper. There's just so much to it. So again, let's eat for good health. I mean, we can solve a lot of the problems that we have in our bodies by just eating right and allowing our bodies to go back into balance so that they can work on healing ourselves. There's stuff that we've learned about called autophagy. Autophagy. It's digest oneself. It's where the body goes in after so many hours of not eating carbohydrates or any foods, and it starts cleaning up. That's what the night is for. We're supposed to fast all night long so that our bodies can go in and clean things up. We don't give it enough time because many times we eat right up until we go to bed, and as soon as we get up, we start eating. So we learned about intermittent fasting. So for the most part, we started out with ketogenic, just eating all the good sugar-free desserts I could make and all the cauliflower pizzas and tortillas and all that I could do. I bought every ketogenic cookbook that came out on the market and just was having fun being a foodie and eating all these new foods, or converting foods that I had. Like I have a great cheesecake recipe on my YouTube channel from my mother's cheesecake recipe, which only has 4 ingredients, but and I didn't have to tweak it very much at all. And I have this great cheesecake, tastes better than any cheesecake. I saw all these keto cheesecakes. It's wonderful. And I do it in the Instapot, so it's really quick. So, but then again, I digress. So I go ahead and we're doing this ketogenic thing, and we're losing the weight. And then, of course, we come to a stall where we're not losing it. And so we got a little deeper into it, started cutting out some of the carbohydrates, a lot of the cauliflower, because cauliflower is high in carbohydrates if you're trying to really get past those set points that happen. And so you kind of have to work with it. And my mother always said in her wisdom is that your body will tell you what it needs. For the most part, you got to listen to your body. If you really, really, really want to hear, not have deaf ears, but listen to your body. And there's so many times that we don't listen to our body because we don't like what it's telling us. We want to listen to what our cravings are. Like, I loved candy and I was always sneaking M&Ms or, peanut M&Ms or almond joy bars. Now I sneak keto candy that I make. And again, I have YouTube channel video. I have that on my YouTube channel as well, how to make those treats if that's what you need. So don't deprive yourself, but don't go for a Reese's peanut butter cup if you want something snack. Learn how to make them yourself. They're really not that hard, and keep them on hand so that when you want something sweet, you don't have to cheat. See, that'll be the way to remember it. When I want something sweet, I don't have to cheat. I can go to something that I made that's not only no carb or low carb, but it's actually good for you, because everything that I make on my channel is good for you, because one of my mottos is what's in it for me. If it's not something good, then I don't want it. I want to be selfish about it. What's in it for me? And then if it's something good, then I'll put it in, I'll eat it. Again, I do digress. I am so sorry. So we ended up doing this ketogenic thing, and it was wonderful. We're losing weight, having to buy new clothes, feeling good. We have gone through some issues over the years through this we've I'm not going to go through it, but we have gone through some ups and downs, and your body will. If you've eaten a certain way for 50 or 60 years and you're changing the way you're eating, your gut biology is going to change. There's a lot of things that are going to change for the better, but you might not feel so good. You might feel a little green every now and then. That's okay. Don't give up. I want to be an encouragement. In your 50s, in your 60s, even in your 70s, you are not stuck with what you've got now. You're not stuck with your health. You're not stuck with your body. You don't have to be. And this is such a revolutionary way of living. I don't even want to call it a diet, because diet, we think of something as temporary. This is a way of living, and it's a good way of living. And it brings health and vitality. I mean, I look at myself 2 years ago when I started this ketogenic way of living. July 1st, 2017 is when we started this. And I do have a picture of us that day going to dinner with some people at the Red Lobster, and I will post that as well. And we didn't eat those buns that day at the Red Lobster, which I was so proud of. Okay, we're starting today. We're not going to eat those wonderful cheddar buns, but you can make those cheddar buns ketogenic if you like. So at any rate, we went ahead and we have been faithful to this, going off here and there. But once you learn about fat burning and glucose burning, and I tell you, I run into a lot of people that tell me, I just ran into somebody the other day that, has great health problems, and they were like, yeah, I eat good. I eat nuts, and I eat quinoa, and I eat, and they rattled off the different things that they eat, and that's all well and good. And if you're eating a sad American diet, that's a good place to start. But a lot of those things really have anti-nutrients in them, so you have to be really careful. If you're eating nuts, you want to soak them and sprout them and then dry them, then they're safer to eat. If you're eating tomatoes or nightshades, you want to remove the skin and the seeds because there's anti-nutrients in there. If you're eating raw spinach, that's not something that's really good for you, especially if you are low in, you're having trouble with your joints and calcium and things like that. The spinach, it's been shown to bind the calcium uptake in the system. So there's things to watch out for. But for the most part, if you start eating this way, the real key to having success in this is if you're a glucose burner and you're eating all those things, it's not really going to work for you. You need to be a fat burner, because that's where the ketones come in. And ketones are we have so much stored fat, it isn't even funny. I can't remember how many thousands of calories that we have stored in fat that we can use, whereas people think sugar is the thing, and there's only maybe 2,000 calories that are stored in sugar. Don't quote me on those things. I do need to get my statistics, and I will do another video on that. But I have to look at, I go through so much literature and I watch so many lectures that sometimes I don't remember all the facts, right? So I'm not here to give you facts and to teach you, because I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree, but I do read a lot, watch a lot of lectures, and I have been in the health food industry for quite a few years, since since my youngest daughter was 12 and she's 44 right now. So it's been quite a while that I've been in the health food industry. So if you really want to get healthy and you really want to lose weight and you really want to have brain fog go away, have clarity of brain, learning again, there's so many things that I just can't even begin to describe how much better life can be if you're in the fat burning mode, where your body is using fat for energy. So that's the big key. People come and they say, yeah, I eat this way, I do this, and they're all good things. But if you're eating carbohydrates with your fat, then it doesn't matter how good your fat is. It's not going to work for you. And as you start studying this, if you're already into this, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, then you are at the gateway of the most wonderful adventure of your life. that is going to make everything in your life better. The way you look, the way you feel, the way you think, the way you relate to other people, the way you treat the environment even. This is a good thing for the environment as well, because we're not eating all this junk, we're not wasting all these foods. So many packaged foods come with so many plastics and things like that, that our landfills are filled and filled and filled. I don't do any of that. I have very little garbage. And I used to compost. I don't have a place to compost right now. But we have slid from the ketogenic way of eating to more of a carnivore way of eating as an experiment. And we're kind of liking it. I'm finding that I'm feeling better. And I was having some rashes here and there. Those have gone away. But for the most part, it's just a lot easier for me in my busy. I'm real busy with business. We're very active. We go every day. We go to a different area, a park or a lake. We have a routine that we do, and we'll go and we'll walk. So we're gone a couple hours every morning doing that. And just, you got to clean your house, and I'm making the YouTube videos, and a lot of things are going on. Busy, 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 busy. So it's real easy in the morning for me to make a hamburger. First, I'll fry up 2 or 3 pieces of bacon, and then the grease that's in there, I put my hamburgers in there, and then I'll put some cheese on top of the hamburger, and I crack open quail eggs on mine, and I'll put a big turkey egg or a duck egg or a chicken egg on Mark's, and we'll have that. So we have bacon cheeseburger with an egg on top, and we usually don't eat that until about 11 or 12 in the afternoon. We get up in the morning and we'll have our yerba mate tea, and then later in the mid-morning we might have some bone broth or a cup of coffee. It depends on what's going on with us. I'll bring a big thing of water with maybe some electrolytes in it for our little jaunt in the morning. And then when we get back, if it's like 11:30 or 12:30, it depends on if I have work to do before we do lunch, but I'll make that for lunch. And then we don't eat again until, dinner. So we'll have ribeye steak or chicken or, pork chops or, we have a lot of meat. And then we don't normally, right now at least, we're not having the salads that we have. I am growing vegetables. So like last night, I had some fancy salads that were growing in my garden tower. And I had cucumbers from my garden tower. And we've been wanting an avocado, so I bought some avocados yesterday. So that's what we had last night. We had a little salad with the avocado and my crazy lettuces that I grew on the tower and a cucumber. And in the cucumber, I did peel it and I took the seeds out as per Dr. Gundry. And I'm not a real follower of Dr. Gundry's, but I do listen to him when it comes to the nightshades and what anti-nutrients are in some of these, which is true. They don't always affect everybody's body different, but it's easy enough to take the seeds out and skin the cucumber. So I do that, and we had that for dinner last night. And then for dessert, if you want it, we have our little candies that I make, which are made from raw cacao. I use several things. Again, if you want to look at those, go ahead and watch those videos. But anyway, I just want to be here to encourage you that if you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and you are just frustrated, the doctors just keep putting you on more and more medications, and you cannot lose weight, and you feel sluggish, and you're feeling tingling in your feet, and you've got all these issues, check it out. Look at the ketogenic way of eating. It can't hurt you, for sure. There's nothing but good in it. And ketogenic way of eating does stress eating clean. So if you can afford it at all, try eating, if you're eating meats, the grass-fed meats, chicken, eggs, go get them from a local person. Or we're here in Arizona, in Prescott Valley, and I go to the Honeyman store and I'll get my eggs there. But there's a lot of people that sell their eggs that are just maybe neighbors of yours. But check it out. There's all kinds of places. I go to the farmer's market and every Saturday, and I'll get some meat there from 2 different cattle ranchers that have different kinds of beef. So with Black Angus, Carrillo beef, so they're different ones. I like to mix it up a little bit. I like when I'm eating hamburger, which we love hamburger, I like knowing that my ground beef comes from one cow. If you're eating ground beef from the store where they've got, even if it's grass fed, you know, if it comes from big, huge productions, they're bringing all their cattle at one time. Their ground beef is from many different cows. Where we get ours, it's not that way. In fact, one of the El Bell Ranch, we went out last week, Mark and I did, and I have a video of that I haven't put out yet, but and they showed us how they treat all their cows, and I had such a great day. And her husband's name's Mark too. This is Leslie and Mark, and her husband's name is Mark, and he actually goes. And the last time she told me he went, he actually stood there with the butcher. Well, the butcher was doing all of the processing. And so again, if there's ground beef there, it all comes from the same cow. And so that's a good thing to do. And your vegetables, if you're eating vegetables and fruits, you want to make sure that they're organically grown, because if they're not, they could be from genetically modified seeds, which is another story altogether. But the pesticides and the Roundup, they put Roundup and pesticides and all kinds of things, and the soils are so depleted that here you're eating all these vegetables thinking that you're getting the vitamins that the vegetables are famous for, and there probably is very little vitamins and minerals in them because the soils are so depleted. And they get them to grow by feeding them chemically processed fertilizers and those kinds of things. When you eat organic, that's not the case. Generally, you're getting more nutritional value there, although our soils are so depleted. I grow my vegetables in a garden tower, which holds 20 gallons of water at the bottom, and you put tonics in there that give it the vitamins and minerals. So I really have a good grasp of what the nutritional value is in anything that I grow from my garden tower. But that's a whole nother story altogether. And I did post a couple of videos on my garden tower as well. I have a freeze dryer. I freeze dry my foods. I grow all my herbs, my parsley and oregano and basil, lots of basil, and I freeze dry those as well. And I do have a dehydrator, so I will take fruits, organically grown fruits, and I'll make fruit leathers out of those with different supplements in them, so that when I'm eating the fruit leather, again, what's in it for me? I don't want to just eat the fruit and whatever sweetener I've put in it. And I don't ever use sugar. I'll use stevia, monk fruit, erythritol, and I usually do a mixture so that you're not getting just one. And those are sugar alcohols that are not, well, monk fruit's not a sugar alcohol, but if you do use the sugar alcohols, erythritol is really the best one. You won't have the gastric problems with it. I think xylitol would be next, but erythritol I will use. I don't buy xylitol, maltitol, sorbitol, any of those. They give you big gas problems, and they're not as natural. So again, those are the things I use. If you watch any of my videos, again, you'll see the sweeteners that I use when I am making sweetened things. As far as salt goes, I really use Celtic salt. I love Celtic salt. That's my favorite salt, and one of the reasons is that it has the most minerals. It has, I think, the same amount of minerals that Himalayan salt does, but it has 3 magnesiums instead of 1. So your Redmond's real salt, your Himalayan salt, they do have minerals in them, and they're good for you. But the Celtic salt has 82 minerals, and it has 3 magnesiums in it, which are really good. Magnesium we need. We need magnesium. We need potassium. We need those things. If you are doing a ketogenic way of eating, you want to make sure that you check that out before you jump into it, because you are going to be losing fluids. And there are scientific reasons why, when you're on a diet, when you first start going on any diet, you're going to lose a lot of weight at first, and most of that is water weight. And with that water, you will lose electrolytes, you'll lose some minerals. So you want to make sure that you're getting those in. And I do like Dr. Berg has a really great product out that has potassium in it, because we do need 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day. And so it's a drink mix, and we like doing that. I'll put that in a drink as well, and we'll have that. And I'm a Young Living oil distributor, if you say that, but a member of Young Living, and I use their orange oil, and I'll make orange Julius's and use heavy whipping cream. But again, as you get into ketogenic way of eating, you'll see all the things that you're allowed. You can have heavy cream, you can have real butter, get Kerrygold butter. Kerrygold butter is from Ireland, and those cows just munch on the big green grasses in Ireland, and it's super good for you. And so we use that also has vitamin K2 in it, which again, these are some of the things that if you get going in this, you want to research out. The benefits of vitamin K2 will help your body utilize the calcium that many times is floating around and it's stuck inside the joints and the arteries. And I have gone 40 minutes already on this. I can't believe it. I'm going to have to do another one that's shorter. But I did want to give you all that information. So anyway, good luck. It's Keto and Cultured. Look up my YouTube channel, Rose Condren, and I will be posting some other links as well. So God bless you and have a great day. Thanks.